Good morning, Brian. Thank you for coming. Please help yourself to breakfast and honestly sponsored. I keep on saying the Torah is not a history book, but if you look in this week's parsha, it seems to give us a trivial historical fact. The Torah says, the Avim, there were a group of people who lived in open cities until Gaza. The Kaftorim who had left Kaftor wiped them out, and settled in their place. So who were the Avim? They were descendants of Abimelech, the Philistine king, and what happened is that Avram made a treaty with Abimelech that he would not conquer the land of his descendants, and the Avim were his descendants. And since God wanted the Jews to have this land, he had the Kaftorim replace the Avim. So they couldn't capture from the Avim because they were violating the treaty. But since the Kaftorim took it over with God's planning, therefore they were able to take over this land. That's why he has that. Story is told that the Rabbi Moshe Teitelbaum, who was then the Sigat Rav of Satmar, and he asked his uncle, Rav Yoli Teitelbaum, from Satmar, the Satmar Rebbe. This is between World War II and the creation of the state of Israel. And he said to him, "Uncle, will there be a Jewish state?" So his uncle said, it depends who controls it. If the Arabs control the land, since they're circumcised, not fully, so therefore we have a tradition in the Zohar that they have a right to the land. They can control the land up until the time when their merits run out. That's the Zohar.
Time of the what?
Their merits run out. In other words, because they're circumcised, they have some attachment to the land according to the Zohar. So, but he said if the British own the land, then there will be a Jewish state. That's what the Satmar Rebbe said. Now, the Satmar Rebbe was not a proponent of Zionism, by the way, but to the Satmar Rebbe's credit, when I think it was Hubert Humphrey was running for president, he went to visit the Satmar Rebbe in Williamsburg, and the first question Satmar Rebbe asked him, "What's your position on Israel?" And he encouraged him to be a supporter of Israel. So the Hasidim said, "You're opposed to Zionism. What are you doing giving a bracha to this politician who is supportive of Israel, and you're telling him to support Israel?" He said, "Listen, whatever problems we have in our family itself, when there's a disagreement, we don't want the outside world to be part of that. That's not part of the outside agreement." In fact, Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, who was the chief rabbi of Jerusalem, also was opposed to Zionism, and the British, listen, the non-Jews know what's happening in the Jewish community, even without Twitter in those days. This goes back before this creation of the state of Israel. So they went to the British government, went to see Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld. They said, "Listen, you're anti-Zionist, we're anti-Zionist, let's team up," right? Good shidduch. So Rabbi Sonnenfeld said, no, he refused. He said that his opposition stemmed from the fact that the Zionist movement was really too goyish, was too secular. You were opposed Zionism, he said, because they're too Jewish. Because you were too Jewish because of the Jewish roots. In fact, he was like the Satmar Rebbe when they were going to make the denomination. They had English and they had Arabic on the coinage. They wanted to put Hebrew on. They asked him, the Rabbi Sonnenfeld, "Do you speak Hebrew in your house? Do you support this bill?" And he said yes, even though he was opposed to Zion. He said, "Whatever problem we have in our family is not for the outside world." Unlike some groups like the Torah Karta today that will willingly aid and abet our enemies of the people. That was not the Satmar, even though they were opposed to Zionism. There's a distinction. Like Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, I thought, summed it up very, very well. Have a wonderful day. Have a great Shabbos.